we get some major news. Some major news. Coming to us right now live from Georgia. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They have dropped some of the biggest charges against Donald Trump. We're going to get into all of it. New developments concerning Joe Biden. It seems he lied. He flat out, straight up lied to reporters about what he may or may not have given his ghostwriter. We're going to get into that. Janet Yellen claiming that Biden's number one issue right now, he's so focused on this, is inflation. Yeah, give me a break. Give me a break. And Lara Trump for the win. I am so impressed. I got to tell you, you know what? She's rethinking how the Republicans play politics, and I love it every step of the way. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am Trish Regan. This is the Trish Regan Show. We are brought to you, as always, in part by our good friends over at Legacy PM Investments. LegacyPMInvestments.com if you're worried about inflation, as you should be, as apparently Joe Biden says he is, which we know he is not, really. Well, you want to give these folks a call. 1-866-589-0560. Turning to the news, coming to us right now, ladies and gentlemen, out of Georgia. Guess what? They're dropping some key charges. Here's the headline from the New York Times. Judge squashes 6 charges in Georgia election case against Trump. And this is a big deal because some of these charges that they are dropping, they happen to be some biggies that maybe the entire case is predicated upon. And you know what is amazing? Incredibly amazing is that the mainstream media can't even hide from this. They can't even spin this one. I mean, this must kill them over at state-run MSNBC right now to have to talk about how he's actually scoring a legal victory again. And this one didn't even have to go to the Supreme Court. Imagine that. Let's watch MSNBC and their interpretation.
Momentous decision or monumental decision that could completely derail the case altogether if Judge Scott McAfee were to come out and say he's determined Fani Willis is disqualified.
Yeah. You know, a couple of things. Absolutely. That's what we're still waiting on. And that was kind of the bomb that we were expecting to drop this week. And so this is certainly a separate, unexpected, though certainly consequential ruling from the judge. A couple of things I want to point our attention to, though, when we talk about those 6 counts. Remember, the former president was charged with 13 counts altogether. So for 6 of them to be dismissed, that takes away nearly half the counts that he's facing in Georgia. But when you look at the judge's breaking down of those counts, I want to take you back to what started this whole thing in the beginning. That was that phone call that the former president made to the Republican Secretary of State here in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, essentially asking him to find enough votes to overturn Biden's election victory here in the state. Well, the judge is basically saying that the charges, the counts related to that phone call, he is throwing out. And so that's kind of what a lot of people know as the biggest thing around these charges for the former president, the biggest kind of action around it. And so the judge in this ruling is saying that those counts related to that phone call are going to be thrown out. What it's also saying is that, you know, part of the indictment is that several members, several people who have been charged solicited elected members of the Georgia Senate and the Georgia House of Representatives to, quote unquote, violate their oaths by requesting or asking them to unlawfully appoint presidential electors. That's being thrown out as well. And so I think that it's certainly important when we look at the counts, but also what the alleged action was behind it that's also being removed from this indictment. I've been in touch with Steve Sadow. He is the lead.
You see? I mean, they can't even spin this one. The reality is, they don't have the case. They were going off all these racketeering charges, right? You know, this one was conspiring with this one, and they were having these phone calls, and they were going to do this, that, and the other. And Fani Willis thought she could get him with her brilliant boyfriend, Nathan Wade, on racketeering. Unbelievable stuff. And yet the judge, Brenda Weaver, there in the Superior Court, she said, it's not going to work. And so the judge is dismissing these counts. And I don't know how they're really going to move forward here, given that it was all predicated upon that. The whole racketeering thing. I mean, meanwhile, Miss Fani Willis, you got problems of your own, lady, right? I mean, for goodness sakes, she is the epitome of what we do not like, ladies and gentlemen, in Washington, D.C. or in Fulton County, Georgia. She is the epitome of hypocrisy to think that she stood up there and said, hey, vote for me, because you know what? I will not spend your taxpayer money unnecessarily. And guess what else? I'm not going to be dating my employees when in fact, well, we know how that ended. Let's watch the campaign video of Miss Fani Willis promising us that she's not going to do anything she shouldn't.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children. Because we deserve better.
I mean, you can't make it up, right? So Fani Willis, her face is covered in egg right now. She is seeing her case fall apart as we speak. And the harsh reality for her is she may actually wind up in a whole lot more trouble than she ever would have possibly anticipated, because you know what? This is a lady who could get disbarred. In all seriousness, this is a lady who, if they really wanted to push this forward, could find herself in a tremendous amount of trouble, because it seems that she lied on the stand. And not only may she have lied on the stand, but she actually called her boyfriend's business partner, according to the testimony of somebody else involved who overheard the phone conversation with the business partner getting a call allegedly from Fani Willis saying, hey, make sure that you don't tell them anything. They don't need to know anything. So considering all that, I do think that Fani is in for a bit of a spanking. I can't believe I went there. I can't believe you know what, this story, this is something else. And yet again, we see that things are getting thrown out. They got nothing. I mean, they keep going after this guy and going after this guy and going after him, and they keep coming back with squat. And you know what keeps happening? The polls keep showing him ahead. Brand new poll, ladies and gentlemen, out of ABC Ipsos, showing Donald Trump is 3 points ahead. And he's officially, I should say, you know what? He's officially the GOP nominee, just as I predicted he would be all along. So he's the nominee. He's now 3 points ahead, according to ABC. By the way, that's like the weakest poll I've seen. Everything else has him up 5 points. And I imagine now that there's this on the table, now that Americans have learned that yet again, one of these legal cases against him is just not flying, Americans are going to feel like, hey, you know what? What the, you know what are you doing? And consequently, they're going to rally even more to his side, as we have seen over and over and over again. And it doesn't have to be just what they're doing to him. Consider that Joe Biden has done a heck of a lot to the United States, vis-a-vis inflation, vis-a-vis our border, vis-a-vis the international equation. He's now spending $300 million more, money that we don't have, writing some kind of executive order so he can sign a check for Ukraine. Americans don't want it. So why does he keep on doing it? And why, for that matter, does he keep on lying to the American people? Joe Biden caught in another lie, ladies and gentlemen. This one has to do with those classified documents that he kept in his garage next to his Corvette. No, he didn't intentionally do that. It was just an honest mistake, right? By a really old guy. Well, not really so. Not really so, because he was so excited to show his ghostwriter these classified documents. He ran and got them for his ghostwriter, and they had a conversation about the classified material that the ghostwriter actually tape recorded, but then apparently put in the trash chute once Robert Hur came looking around. So what was it? Joe Biden sells the country out, classified documents for $8 million, price of his book deal? Kind of feels that way, right? But oh, no. He said he never talked to the ghostwriter about any of this, right? Let's run this clip.
Thank you, everyone. I did not share classified information. I did not share it. With your ghostwriter? With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
We also identified other recorded conversations during which Mr. Biden read classified information aloud to his ghostwriter.
Okay. So yeah, he shared the information with his ghostwriter. And that was what was discovered by none other than Robert Hur. So here's the problem. Why isn't Joe Biden being prosecuted for this? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just a simple girl from New Hampshire. Live free or die country. You can get the mug at the store, trishregan.shop. Seriously. I mean, I'm just a simple person who thinks about these things in kind of simple, perhaps too simple a way. In other words, if you're going to go after Donald Trump, who's just a few years younger, and say, okay, we're going to hold you responsible, but you're not going to go after the president of the United States who did the exact same thing. Not only did the exact same thing, but it's even worse because he made $8 million off of it. He sold a book off of it, and then he lied about it. And then the reporter stashed the stuff, according to Robert Hur, in the trash bin. The tape that recorded them talking about these classified documents. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. And yet, Robert Hur, who, by the way, I'm told through my sources, is a really smart guy. He works for a great law firm, and he's no longer in government now. Smart man. Anyway, he says he can't get a jury to convict him, so that's why he's not bringing the case. Listen.
Based on the facts and anticipation of defenses presented in your report, could a reasonable juror have voted to convict?
As I said in the report, some reasonable jurors may have reached the inferences that the government would present in its case in chief at trial.
So a reasonable juror could have voted to convict based on the facts that you presented?
Correct.
Oh, forgive me. He does say a reasonable juror. So that brings us back to the question that Matt Gaetz was getting at yesterday. I played you this clip last night. It's like all 4 minutes of it. If you haven't seen it, go and look in the clips because we've put all of these up. I mean, it's incredible. Gaetz is like, hey. Like, how does this make any sense? And Hur has said that he didn't think he could actually get a jury conviction, but a reasonable jury might actually convict. In other words, the guy kept the classified documents and he knew they were classified. So why aren't we moving forward? Really and truly, I mean, listen to this little exchange between one representative and Robert Hur, and you tell me what you think on the other side of this.
Mr. Hur, classified documents were found at the Penn Biden Center?
That's correct.
They were found in President Biden's garage?
In Wilmington, Delaware, yes.
And in his basement den?
Also in the same home, yes.
In his main floor office?
Correct.
And his third floor den?
Correct.
At the University of Delaware?
Correct.
And at the Biden Institute?
Correct.
Okay, correct. They found him everywhere, all right? So if they find him everywhere, why aren't we actually moving forward with this? I mean, I have a big problem with this right now. It really feels like some kind of two-tier justice system on steroids. Oh, he's the president. He's not touchable. You can't go after him. It's just like what we heard in the lawyers' exchanges. Remember the emails that the lawyers for Joe Biden's son, Hunter, were communicating back to the other side? Hey, you don't want to have to put the president on the stand, right? That won't really look good for the president. You know what? I agree. It doesn't look good. None of this looks good. Why the heck is everybody making off with classified documents? I mean, in the case of President Trump, he was president at the time. Therefore, he had the ability to declassify them. In the case of Joe Biden, guess what? Guys, he wasn't president. He was vice president, doing all kinds of deals with Ukraine, apparently. Alleged. That was his son. I don't know. I just say, you got yourself a case, and yet you're not pursuing it. And I think as an American, we need to wonder, why? Why aren't you pursuing it? This is why it is so critical. It's just so critical, ladies and gentlemen, that we get the right people in Congress. I mean, you know, like things are teetering in a balance right now because Congressman Buck, he's out of there. He's like, I'm not having any part of this. I don't really like it. It's such a nasty place. I can go do better things somewhere else. I do look at that and say, hey, buddy, you know what? You could have seen through the term. You might have tried to at least just see it through. You know, you take on something, you're supposed to see it through instead of leaving everybody high and dry. Mike Johnson's like, wait, what? He's leaving now? I mean, he was going to leave. We didn't know he was going to leave next week. And so that's putting the Republican Party, the GOP, in a very precarious spot. And so right now we've got so much sort of hanging in the balance, which is why it's so important come 2024 that we get kind of a good, solid, healthy majority. People that care about the economy, people that care about inflation, people that care about our standing in the world and care about our border. These policy issues, they really matter. You know who cares about this? Our friends over at Americans for Prosperity, AFP, americansforprosperity.org. They're looking at what's going on with inflation. They're looking at what's going on with the border. And I guarantee you, you know what? I know these folks, the left wants to paint people on the right as though they're anti-immigrant, which is absolutely positively not the case and not the truth in any way, shape, or form. But people on the right are saying, hey, you know, you're going to bring all these people here Don't you think you ought to have a system? Don't we have to have a way to bring, you can't be bringing 320,000 people in the dead of the night and flying them to Timbuktu in all these different airplanes because you want to stack things for the census. I'm sorry, like that can't work. So Americans for Prosperity, they're committed to making sure that we have the representatives in Congress, the representatives in Senate that we need so that we have the right kinds of policies to actually expand and grow our economy so that we can be more reliant. There's a story the other day. Did you see this one, guys? Unbelievable stuff. Remember that big, like $280 billion deal that Joe Biden was doing with all these semiconductor companies? He wanted all the chip companies to come bring their businesses back onshore, which I, by the way, so wholeheartedly support. Yeah, it's a strategic industry. Let's have it onshore. Thank you very much. Well, apparently there are so many like DEI things in there, diversity, equity, and inclusion, so many requirements that according to a new story actually written by a guy over at Vivek Ramaswamy's asset management shop called Strive, it's like the anti-ESG shop, written by him and published by The Hill. Well, all of these companies are saying, you know what? I don't really need the money. I don't think I want this. Let me go elsewhere. Like Israel. Imagine they're willing to go to Israel. And you think about everything that's happening over there in the precarious state that Israel's in, but they're like, hey, you know what? More bang for our buck over there because we don't have to deal with this DEI insanity. So he's got so many strings attached to this money that I don't know if he's ever really going to be able to onshore this stuff. And this is part of the problem. You know, big government in the way. Americans for Prosperity, I promise you, they care about these things. You know who else cares about these things? I care about these things. And it's one of the reasons why I started a brand new company. So Trish Regan show here every single day. You know that. Day in, day out, I'm live. Unless I'm on vacation. And but I care about these things. And I look at what's going on and I'm like, investors are getting the short change here, right? As a news consumer, you're getting the short change because I guarantee you, neither Fox nor CNN, nor MSNBC, nor the New York Times, nor the Daily Beast, none of these places actually care about you. Not the way I do anyway, not the way my colleague over at 76 Research does. Rob Horton, brilliant fund manager who's managed billions of dollars actually on Wall Street and has said there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And so he and I teamed up. We've been friends for a long, long time. We've talked about this forever. And we've teamed up to create 76 Research, 76research.com, which publishes the 76 report and a variety of model portfolios. You can get them all if you go in on the founders level, but model portfolios with 10 to 15 stocks in each one that are designed for really long-term holdings to grow your wealth in a way that's free of all this noise that you're getting from the mainstream media, the noise that you're getting from Wall Street, or frankly, the noise that you are getting, ladies and gentlemen, from the White House and from the Democrats in charge. And by the way, I'm not saying that Republicans are guiltless in this. I mean, they tend to be a little better off than the left these days. But the reality is everybody's got something to sell, so to speak, right? I mean, they've all got their lobbyists there. They all want to get reelected. And so they're doing things not always for the reasons that are capitalist in nature. And so I'm just a pure capitalist, simple girl, red-blooded American capitalist, as I like to say. And so is Rob. And so we said, you know what, we gotta do better for people. I encourage you to sign up for the 76 report, if nothing else, because you're going to get every couple of weeks a pretty good stock pick in there. I happen to know that the one he just profiled is actually, I mean, maybe it's coincidence, but he's got a good insight into these things. It's actually on fire just in the last 6 days. So $9.95 a month. Hey, listen, you cannot beat it. Go check out 76research.com. Sign up for the 76 report. I know you're gonna love it. Okay, moving on to more news. Wow. Lara Trump is taking no prisoners, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this forever. I've said this actually since 2020. We can't like pack up and go home, right? We want to win. And so what frightened me about 2020 was the lack of enthusiasm I saw coming from so many conservatives. And I get it. Like you feel like, hey, you know, we did everything. We were there at the rallies. We're tuning in to Trish Regan and others. I mean, you're doing your part, right? And yet it slipped away in 2020. And so you're like, how could that be? Well, part of the reason, frankly, whether you like it or not, is that the Democrats have a better organizational front and they've had more money You know, hey, Zuck over at Facebook, you know, he's done his fair share, shall we say, to help with some of the absentee ballots and registering people, ballot harvesting, as they like to say. Well, a lot of people were so discouraged, and it reminded me of what I've seen in Venezuela, where people are like, oh my gosh, you know, we can't get rid of this. We can't get rid of this Hugo Chavez guy. And so they, you know, they think they're going to just pack up and go home. And I'm saying, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And what I love is Lara Trump is saying the exact same thing. This woman is on a mission. She just fired 60 people. Woo! Fired 60 staffers over at the RNC. But, you know, look, she's doing what she has to do because you can't be spending 70 grand on flowers. Thank you very much. We're here to win, are we not? You need to be a lean, mean machine. And Lara, who's a triathlon athlete, by the way, she's running to win this thing, right? She wants to win. She's competitive. She knows what she has to do. Watch her here on Hannity.
You're exactly right, Sean. Look, this is a must-win election. I think people look around this country and they're horrified by what they've seen going on. And I just want to make sure that people out there take this very seriously. And I can tell you at the RNC, we are already doing that. This is day 2 of me as co-chair of the RNC. I have a great team over there with Michael Whatley as our chairman now. And I'll tell you, we're very focused on winning. And all the things you just laid out are things that we have to embrace as a party if we ever want to compete with the Democrats. If we want to win, we got to change the way we do things. We cannot just sit back and play the game the same way. You said it would be great if we had all those things. One day of voting, you know, voter ID all across this country, paper ballots. Guess what? We could get there one day. But in order to do that, Donald Trump has to be elected as the 47th president. We have to expand our lead in the House, and we have to take back the Senate. So we are incredibly focused on those things at the RNC. Right now, we have the first ever election integrity division at the RNC. That means massive resources going to this one thing. If people out there, Sean, don't feel like their vote counts, they don't trust the system we have, then we are no longer the country we once thought we were. We will have trained poll watchers, poll observers, poll workers, people in tabulation centers all across this country.
I mean,
if you want to
all over it, right? That's what needs to happen. And I get it. Like, none of us actually really wants to say, hey, yeah, it's all going to be absentee ballots, etc. But hey, we got to put some systems in place. You know what? We really, really do. That said, you know, the idea that somehow people can't otherwise get to vote, I'm sorry, I'm kind of over that. So, you know, Wesley Hunt, Representative Wesley Hunt, he's kind of over that too. And he just went off on this. It's actually really important to hear. I want to play you Representative Hunt saying, like, this is just ridiculous that we have to trip over ourselves to get people registered to vote on the Democrat side. I mean, Lara, credit to you, right, for trying to do that for Republicans, but it's a little nuts, all the hoops that they're jumping through on the left. Watch them.
I'm here to talk about the left's soft bigotry of low expectations. Because it's the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party, that thinks so little of Black America as a people of color that they make the case that being Black in America means we can't obtain a government ID to vote. And that's not only a ridiculous assertion, it's demeaning and it's insulting. When it comes down to it, many of my colleagues on the left like to pretend that we're still living in the 1950s. Well, we're not. I've got some good news for you. It's 2024, and I know what year it is because I've been Black for just over 40 years. And I'm also the son of a retired lieutenant colonel who grew up in the segregated South. You see, my parents grew up in a Jim Crow South in the 50s and 60s in New Orleans, Louisiana. Their next generation, my parents had 3 kids. My sister, brother, and I all went to West Point, all 3 of us. We all served our country in combat. And I sit before you today as a sitting United States congressman in a district in a suburb of Houston, Texas, that's a white majority district, that President Trump would have won by 25 points, and I won by almost 30 points. And that doesn't happen unless we've made some incredible progress in this great nation. Now, my colleagues on the left like to say that common sense voting laws, including requiring a government-issued ID, are racist, discriminatory, and burdensome. Do you know what my father had back in the 40s and 50s before it was even cool? A government-issued ID. And continuing in his footsteps, I too have multiple government-issued IDs. And while that might be shocking to many people in this country, people may ask, how's that happen? It's very simple. It's personal responsibility for all Americans in this country, regardless of what you look like. Sitting with me today is my global entry card, my military ID card, my Texas driver's license, my Texas license to carry, because that's how we roll in Texas, my congressional card, and of course, the good old-fashioned American passport.
Oh my gosh.
What sorcery is this? What am I, the Black Houdini? How was I able to pull off the impossible and attain not one, not two, not three, but 6 government-issued IDs? Personal responsibility in this country. I fought for this country as an Apache helicopter pilot to protect free and fair elections, and having a government-issued ID isn't racist, it's American. You need to have an ID to drive a car, to check into the airport, open a bank account. You need an ID for basically everything to be a responsible adult in this country, except for voting, apparently, according to the left. Black America does not need well-meaning liberals putting their arms around us and telling us how we should go to the polls. In fact, if you look at recent headlines and polls, you will find that black men specifically in this country are more fired up than ever to participate in the next presidential election. And I think I know why, and I'm really looking forward to these results. For the record, in the 2022 midterms in Georgia, it proved that election integrity and ballot accessibility can be achieved hand in hand. After the 2020 election, Georgia passed a voter election integrity law, and subsequently, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia alleging that the Georgia law is discriminatory and aims to restrict citizens from voting. President Biden even called this law, and I quote, Jim Crow 2.0. Really? In my humble opinion, referencing Jim Crow for common sense election integrity laws is offensive to those who actually experienced Jim Crow, like my parents and their parents before them. In fact, the law wasn't discriminatory at all, because in the 2022 midterms, Georgia voters shattered voter turnout records across the state. And despite that record-breaking turnout in Georgia, the DOJ lawsuit is still pending. I suspect.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh. Like, he just said it. He said it so well. Unbelievably well put. I love that. You know what? It is American. And by the way, wow, that's a lot of IDs. I still don't have my global entry card. You know, I actually got to hand it to the State Department, because I just got my passport the other day. I mean, I had a passport. It expired. Oh, you got to go through all this work, right? To, you know, like do all the paperwork. And somehow like the days turned into weeks, and they kind of got away from me. So I was probably like 7 weeks without a passport, and I was getting kind of nervous about it. And so I went to the post office, did the whole thing. And I got to say, like, I didn't anticipate this. So thank you, Antony Blinken. I know I've been really rough on you, our Secretary of State, but thanks for giving me my passport. Now I'm like, woohoo, I can go travel. I don't have global entry yet, though. I've been meaning to. It means I need to carve out enough time out of my life to go and sit in the airport for a couple hours. Anyway, wow, Wesley Hunt, way to go, buddy. Just fantastic, fantastic stuff. Hey, thank you for all the compliments. You guys are saying nice things about me. I feel great. I really do. I feel great. Maybe it's because I'm not at Fox anymore. Maybe because it's 4 years, right? Because we're coming up on March 2024. And we're looking at the 4-year anniversary of the whole COVID shutdown. I feel fantastic. I do actually think, as much as we want to say, well, she's not at Fox anymore, which I guarantee is probably 90% of it. The other 10% is the fact that I am taking my vitamins, specifically Balance of Nature vitamins, my fruits and veggie capsules. Balance of Nature, I can't say enough good stuff about this company, because I really do feel much better. And so I read up on them, and they've been in business, a lot of years, some 20 years, ladies and gentlemen, and they really have just tremendous testimonials, not just mine, but you go on the website, you see their Balance of Nature. Do we have their phone number that we can put up to for everybody? Because You can call them. If you use my name, you're going to get a 35% discount code plus $10 off plus free shipping. So I encourage you to do that. You know, I'm all about the discount. I'm watching out for your money. Discount code Trish, 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. The CEO is really interesting. There's a great story about him online. You see all the testimonials from people besides me saying how good they feel. And I like it because gluten-free, none of the bad stuff in it. I take the fruits and veggies. I've been taking it for several months now. And hey, I feel good. I think I look good. You know, we're working on the lighting. It's it's touch and go sometimes, but at least the audio is up and running today, right, guys? Drew is back. Drew's in the house. Drew, you should know, last night everybody was going crazy. They're like, where's Drew? Where's Drew? Where's Drew? Because occasionally we had no audio. And I said, that's what happens when you let Trish take over the audio reins. Anyway, I want to go to another story. Janet Yellen, because she's trying to tell us somehow that this president cares about inflation. I don't think so. But listen to your Treasury Secretary.
In 2021, you did say that inflation was transitory. Do you regret saying that now?
I regret saying it was transitory. It has come down, but I think transitory means a few weeks or months to most people.
So she regrets saying that it was transitory. She's also saying he's so focused on this. He cares so much about this. You know what? If he was so focused on this, if he cared so much about this, I really don't think inflation would be 18% higher. We just got the CPI number in. It came in higher than economists had anticipated, 3.5% this week. I mean, they thought it was going to be 3.4. So it's still higher than they anticipated. But 3.5%, guys, you know what? That's a lot, especially when the Fed is shooting for 2%. And this is why I keep saying you've got to have some inflation protection in your portfolio. I was just talking about 76. We've got a great inflation protected portfolio over there. But one of the things that's in there happens to be a diversification into precious metals, gold specifically, because, you know, hey, you go back over 5,000 years. What has held the test of time? Gold. I was just reading this great quote. I actually want to share it to you because it was from Rob. He was telling me this, and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Let me see if I can pull this up, because it was about how gold effectively was like the one real thing. And I just thought this was so well put. It was by JP Morgan back in 1912. Leave it to Rob to find these things. I'm telling you this because you might want to take a look at our good friends over at Legacy Precious Metals. They can help walk you through all of this. Oh, here it is. It's perfect. All right. The central premise of gold as an inflation hedge is that it serves as a store of monetary value and has for thousands of years. Gold is money. Everything else is credit. JP Morgan, speaking to Congress, 1912. Yeah, well, that explains why Russia and China keep filling their central banks with gold, right? As we have $43 trillion in debt and still counting. I mean, it's excessive. It's out of control. Call my friends, 1-866-589-0560. They'll hook you up. They'll help you out. Charles Thorngren and company. They're at legacypminvestments.com, 1-866-589-0560. Wow. So much going on. It is so good to see you all. I see Don's on your case. He's like, make sure you like, make sure you share. Please do that. I appreciate, Don, your patronage and your willingness to really get everybody on board there. I see some of you guys talking about mining. Hey, again, 76 report, because there's one in there that I think you're going to be very interested in. That report comes out on Friday. Sign up at 76research.com. $9.95, best $10 I think you've ever spent, because this is investment grade, like serious Wall Street research. That's from me and from Rob. And so you know there's no conflicts, and you at heart. Leslie, great to see you as well. I'm just looking at Terry, Stam. Thank you so much, Stam. I appreciate the compliments. I will always take the compliments. Ian, you sent me an email. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna look for your email, Ian. Ian Barber, who's one of our teammates here. Don, I am also an Ivanka fan, absolutely, and that's very kind, a very nice compliment. You know, I've known her over the years, and I've got a great story I'm going to tell you about tomorrow. Well, very quickly, I'll just tell you now. I remember I was on Bill O'Reilly's show, and I was talking about how it was just horrible that people were, not wearing her clothes, et cetera. But it was really interesting that they were wearing perfume, because you could wear her perfume, but you didn't necessarily have to wear her clothes. And that really said something. She called me. She left me a voicemail. Somehow she got my phone number, and she called me, and she wanted to thank me. And I'm like, really? It's Ivanka Trump? Anyway, I called her back, and we had a very nice conversation, and she's been just a wonderful person ever since. I've interviewed her several times over the years. I think she's just an incredibly devoted woman to her family and also to policy. I mean, I'm wonky. She's pretty wonky too. I went down to see her at the White House once, and we spent about an hour and a half, and she was just talking about sort of economic policy for women, and I loved it. But I was like, wow, there's a lot there, and there's a lot of depth, and she's a great person. So thank you, Dom. That's a great compliment. Thank you to all of you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you thumbs up, make sure you share, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.